I welcome the opportunity to speak on this bill. The bill provides for a number of provisions, as has already been said, in relation to issues like marriages of convenience, registering the deaths of Irish persons, recording the deaths of Irish persons who pass away abroad, and the validation of embassy marriages and civil partnership. But like others, is the fourth element of the bill, compulsory joint registration reports, that I would like to concentrate on. Minister, I think that knowing the identity of both of your parents is an essential human right. It's an issue, it's a right that is recognised both under Irish law but also under the European Convention on the Rights of the Child and other international instruments. And I think it's essential that when all possible, children should have the opportunity to know and have a relationship with both of their parents. Denying children and indeed continuing to deny adopted adults in particular, and I'll come back to that issue, information on their parents' identity deprives them of their own identity. It takes away a little part of themselves that they'll never know. I think there's great cruelty in that. And we should, as a state, go out of our way to ensure that children have access to at least the very basic information on the names and identity of their parents. So I welcome the fact that the legislation is moving towards at least ensuring joint registration. I know there are issues that need to be teased through, as has been mentioned by other senators, around things like the best interest of the child, and that we do need to teach through at a later stage in relation to this legislation. Irish history has been, and indeed to this date, we have treated unmarried fathers in particular dreadfully bad in Ireland. They have been denied, while married fathers automatically have a right to guardianship and to be involved in decisions that affect their children. Unmarried fathers, regardless of their relationship with either the mother or child, have no such automatic right. If the mother isn't willing to sign a declaration adding their name to the birth cert or agreeing to guardianship, the father has to fight through the courts to get that. And I think that's incredibly unfair. Particularly where the father has been involved, where he's had a relationship with the mother, where he has been involved in his child's life, both emotionally, physically, financially, all of those, and he still has to go and prove himself as a parent through the courts. I think that's incredibly wrong, and we're so far behind on this issue. So I also think, I know there are separate issues, the registration of the birth and guardianship. Some countries do provide actually that once the father's name is registered with birth cert, that there's an automatic presumption of guardianship, which can then be rebutted if there are good reasons why he's not fit to be father. But I do think we need to look at the guardianship issue as well. Minister, be remiss of me not to take this opportunity while you're before us in the House to raise an issue that I've raised with several of your counterparts over the last few weeks, but which relates more specifically to your brief, and that is the right of adopted people to their birth certs. Adopted people in the UK, as you know, have had a right to their birth cert since 1975, and yet 40 years later, Irish adoptees still don't have that right, and as a result, they're robbed of their identity. They're robbed of basic medical information. For 29 years of my own life, every time I went to a doctor and he asked me, was there a genetic illness that did anybody in the family have cancer or heart disease, I'd tell him I didn't know. And if I'd answer that question, it wouldn't just be, for me, it wouldn't just be kind of thinking about the medical aspects of it. It would make me sad because it would make me think about all the other things that I didn't know about my mother. And Minister, you've spoken publicly as well about your own experiences in that regard and how you found information on your own birth family. I think every adoptee should have that right. I think you and I have been fortunate in many respects that we've been able to get that information. I know I certainly was. I was one of a handful of people matched to the Adoption Contact Preference Register, where the match rate is dismal. And I think it's long past time that the state was actually proactive in helping and giving adoptees a right to their birth cert at the absolute minimum, but also putting in place a proactive and supportive information and tracing service that supports adoptees, birth parents and adoptive parents as well in dealing with all these issues. It's an issue that we pushed under the carpet for far too long. So while we're talking about birth certs, Minister, and your role with respect to that, it would be remiss of me not to raise that issue with you and to implore you to use your position both as Minister for Social Protection with responsibility for the General Registration Office, but also as Taoiseach and somebody who cares about this issue, to ensure that that injustice is finally put behind us. I know that Taoiseach said in the aftermath of the Tuam case that a referendum might be needed, but many constitutional lawyers have argued that that's not the case. And Conor O'Mahony, who's an expert in this, he's based in the law department in UCC, went back to the key case, I think it's IOT and B, and pointed out that in that case the judge actually said that balancing the rights of the adopted person to their identity and the rights of the birth mother to her privacy was a matter for the Oireachtas. And he pointed out that if we brought forward legislation, then like any other legislation, it would benefit from the presumption of constitutionality. So, Minister, we can and we should act, and I hope that you're the Minister that pushes it. Thank you.